Hello everyone, this is Chakra, and what I have for you today is a tutorial video on how to build my 16 destination compact rail station. I've done a video on this about a week ago, but someone requested a tutorial, so I thought I would do one. What you'll need to get started to build this is some building blocks, some slabs, basic redstone stuff, a couple pistons, a dropper, a dispenser, a hopper, some kind of transparent block, minecarts, and rails. So to get things started, you're going to build a line of rails that is 15 blocks long, and parallel to it, one block below, or 2 blocks over, and 1 block over in the other direction, you're going to build a line of 15 redstone dust with a comparator at one end. Now the comparator will be opposite the end of the entrance to the station, and then all you're going to do after that, we're going to build down 1 block here and come all the way across. And now we're going to alternate repeaters along these blocks, starting with the one on the end and ending with the one on the end. And then on these spaces in between, we're going to place blocks with repeaters on top. Alright, now we're going to build the lower sections of the station, the lower 8 exits. You're going to come all the way down to the end opposite the comparator. We're going to build down 1 block, like so, and then make a little U shape like this. And then we're going to cover this whole thing with rails. And then you're just going to repeat that 1 block over, like so, with a block there. And we're going to repeat this 2 more times. So now you should have something that looks like this, and what we're going to do now is we're going to wire up the T-junctions for these groups. So we're going to come all the way down to the end here, we're going to build 1 block here, come down, 2 dust, and then a block on the end like that, and a torch on the side, and you'll see that that powers this T-junction right here, and that's what this repeater goes to. So now we're going to take every other lower repeater and do the exact same thing. So come up like that, down here, spots for 2 dust, block there, torch. That's essentially the lower level done. Now we're going to come in between these 2 T-junctions here. Going to build a block here. Then we're going to start using half slabs to build this upper level so that the player doesn't suffocate while they're on these lower tracks. We're going to build a line of half slabs all the way across the front of these U sections below. And then every other block, we're going to build a U section just the same up top. And then atop of the left-hand side of these little U sections, we're going to put a block, just there. So you should have 4 blocks like that. And then we're going to knock out the half slabs that are underneath them. And then we're going to take blocks here, 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 and there. And then we're just going to lay rails here, here, all across the top like that. And this one does not want to place properly. There we go, sort of. There we are. So it does take a little bit of finagling to actually get the rails to sit how you want them, but you should be able to get it nonetheless. One more thing you'll want to add to these upper sections is a block in between each of these U sections with a redstone torch on top, and then replace the 2 adjacent on this side with powered rails. And again, it might take a little bit of finagling to get the rails to line up properly. There we are. So these 2 should be powered rails on all these top sections. So now that that's done, you're going to come down to the other lower repeaters. You're going to build a block in front, torch on that, block on that, torch on that, block on top of that, and then you're going to put a dust on the adjacent half slab, and you're going to repeat that for the rest of the top sections. So just again, torch, block, torch on top, block on top of that, and then a dust adjacent. So at this point we've essentially wired up all of the rails for the exit, and we've wired up all the T-junctions along this main rail line. Now what we're going to do, we're going to come to the end with the comparator, we're going to build some blocks out like this, and then what we're going to do, this one's a little tricky, we're going to place a rail here, but we want this rail to run perpendicular to it, so we're going to break and replace these like this, just like that, and then now we have this running perpendicular, except I've muddied this up by not putting a redstone block there in the first place. There we go, that one worked out perfectly. So now I'm going to take this and replace this with the redstone block, and then we're going to put powered rails over the top of that, and then run rails into here. Now let's wire up the memory latch. So we're going to come to the end with the comparator, where we're going to place a dust like this, and a little staircase comparator on top, dust on top of that, block on top here, and this is where the memory latch is going to go. Let's build this out of half slabs so that people don't suffocate. So we're going to be a half slab right there, and then slabs all around like this. Block here, you can remove this slab, then a comparator here, dust and a dust. Then you can take a block right here, and then a comparator here, and then you can run 15 redstone dust, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This will be your input line, and that is that. So now we're going to build the piston reset for the memory latch. We're going to build a block up here, put a sticky piston on the side of that block, and then we're going to place a block with a torch on it, and adjacent to that we're going to put a repeater on 2 ticks, a vertically facing sticky piston with a block, a repeater on the default setting, and then a dust behind it. Now to wire up your inputs, you're going to take a block up from this main line of redstone, and then run blocks all along it, all adjacent, and then you can place buttons on the top faces of that. These will be each of your destination selectors, and then you can put a line of slabs adjacent to that just to give yourself a little bit of space all along here. Now I've surrounded this platform with glass. You can choose any block of your choice. It's purely cosmetic as long as it's a transparent block, because the player could receive suffocation damage when going through these intersections. Now we're going to take some blocks off of here. We're going to build 2 blocks out with a powered rail on. Then block away from that, we're going to put a block with a torch on, so it'll power that rail. And then here we're going to place a dispenser, not there, we're going to place it here facing onto the powered rail, and then adjacent to that we'll place a dropper facing into it, and then a hopper facing towards that, and you can put a chest on top. So this is where you will fill in your minecarts. So put minecarts in this chest and they'll filter in, and every time that you click this button you'll get one placed on there. A quick correction needs to be made here. This line of redstone here needs to be 16 long, not 15 long, so you need to add 1 button on the very end, like so, and like so. So this is 16 inputs along here, not 15. Now allow me to give you a more in-depth rundown of how the system works. So this main line of redstone has 16 values to it, the furthest being 0, and the closest being 15, being fed into this comparator, which will store whatever that signal strength value is in this latch. Now that signal will get sent down to either the first or the first 2 or the first 3 or so on, corresponding to the signal strength, get sent to the first set of repeaters. Now every time that an input is pressed, we have a line running into here. Now this will even trigger for the furthest value, because it's set in such a way that it would be 0 signal strength on this redstone dust at the furthest input, but it is signal strength 1 on this dust. So every one of these buttons pressed will send a 2-tick pulse to this torch, which will quickly retract and extend this piston, which will erase whatever value was previously in and allow this comparator to input a new value in. And now let's look at the actual rails. So right now there is a value of 0 stored in here, and so we see that the default when a rail comes, or when a minecart comes down here, it'll turn this way, get sent to the upper level, and get sent over here. So this will be our first destination for signal strength 0. Now if we change that to signal strength 1, we can see that the value's been stored and is sent down to just the first repeater. So that will toggle. That one goes down up here, so it toggles this upper rail. So now when a minecart comes in, it'll come around and then get pushed this direction. So this will be our second destination. And it works similarly for all the rest. So now when the third one happens, it actually toggles the rail down here so that when a minecart comes around, it'll get sent off to the next thing, and it'll turn left up at that junction, come down to this lower level, and go straight. The next one, it would toggle this junction, and it would turn down that way. The one after that, it would toggle that junction, get sent to the next upper group, and so on and so forth. Now, as I said near the beginning, the orientation is kind of inconsequential in the long run, but this last step is a little bit important. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to test where each of these outputs goes. For each orientation it might be a little bit different, so let's get a minecart and we'll push it down and try and watch where it comes out. Came out of this one, so that first output is that, and we're going to label it. And then we'll try the next one, do that, push that through and watch where it comes out. Came out this top one, so we're going to label it, and so on and so forth. Now, to get it running a little bit faster, you may notice that some of the further destinations took quite a while to get to when you were testing. What you can do to speed that up is pop down right here. You can pop onto this rail line, and you can place powered rails on these in-between spots in particular places. Because I've built in this orientation before, I know that I can place one here, and place one here, and then one here, and one here. But you will need to do some experimentation on your own, depending on whatever orientation you're building this in, because of the new derailing mechanics and the snapshots. Just play around with it. Try and be a minimalist with it, because they do tend to derail a lot, especially if you go to these later destinations. But otherwise, that should be it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, and check out my other videos. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future builds, leave those down below, and I will see you next time.